The Void, Series 1, Episode 1, The Naled, Chapter 11. Captain Schafer emerged from the elevator onto the command deck, more than a little irate. He literally had a single mouthful of the food he had prepared when Commander Voigt had called him in. Always when I'm eating. This had been a pattern the whole of Schafer's career. Fate, it seemed, wanted him hungry. What's the situation, Doctor? There appears to have been a military engagement between the Triskele Corporation and the Areans in the system, Captain. It may have been the reason this colony was abandoned. Something tells me that would have been a short battle, Schafer observed. The Areans. Of all the alien cultures humanity had encountered since the Great Expansion, the Areans were the one species they feared the most. Not that they were particularly warlike or bloodthirsty in any way, but because they were so much more advanced than humanity was, and they were not shy in laying down the law as they saw it. The Areans had taken it upon themselves to act as a shepherd for the less advanced species, but it was not a kindly form of mentorship, but rather a stern disciplinarian role. It was the Areans who policed the void and kept the peace between civilizations. Despite this, their intervention wasn't guaranteed. It seemed they expected a certain level of conflict and only got involved once a certain line had been crossed. However, wherever that line lay, it was visible only to the Eyrians themselves. They certainly didn't seem so concerned with internal conflicts. They'd been aware of the corporation wars during the Great Expansion and hadn't intervened, and there were other species that also had their own internal conflicts, like that between the Kadir State and the Kadir Holy Empire. That line, it seemed, demarcated specially. It was brief, that's for sure, Denom responded, replaying the stream from the shuttle that Kane had uploaded. Seconds. That's all it took for a single Arean ship to decimate an entire Triskele fleet. Their firepower was simply astonishing, and always awesome. There was a saying in ancient military circles, Doctor. Shock and awe, Schafer pointed out. The Areans are the very definition of that statement. Indeed. Should humanity ever find themselves in contention with the Areans, then the species was doomed. There were giants striding across the stars whilst humanity were the ants scurrying through their garden. Do we know why the Areans attacked? No, sir. Commander Voigt intimated that it may be down to the Triskele Corporation farming a species known as the Naled. The Naled, Schafer queried. Not a species I'm familiar with. Nor am I. It doesn't appear to be among the xenobiological index, but there's still so much out there we haven't encountered yet. This was all 40 Triskelian years ago? It seems to have occurred a few years before the end of the Triskele Corporation as an entity, Captain, Denom indicated. I would have been a child when this happened. Yet we never heard of it, and the Areans never pushed the issue. Not that we know of. Schafer now understood the secrecy. Firstly, Villa Triskele would have quashed any news of a defeat he had suffered, but there would also have been panic if the public knew the Areans had been the cause of this defeat. But the commander seems to think this is linked to the farming of a species on the planet. Why? She didn't elaborate, Captain, Denom recalled, but there must be a reason that this engagement happened in this system in particular, and the colony would be the first thought. It's just the why of it. Schafer pondered this. Humanity didn't have much communication with the Areans, and only the most brazen of suicidal thoughts would have relished antagonizing them. Most of the contact they did have was receiving their warnings whenever they transgressed that invisible line. But there was a commonality. A significant contingent of them had been either defining limits on human expansionism or concerning aggression against other intelligent species. This didn't appear to be an issue of expansion, as the system was not any other civilization's territory. So that just left the other option. I think you understand her line of reasoning, Schafer announced. Sir? When in our history have we ever incurred the ire of the Areans? The last warning we know of would have been when the Teal Corporation made an incursion into Colomine space. Before then, there was the colonization of the Thera cluster. Too many contested systems were being occupied. And before then, that would have been the Third Jujinkai War. And what do they have in common? They are all incidents where we have come into contention with other species. Sapient, civilized species. Ah, I see what you mean, sir. So why would they get involved here when there were no bordering territories? Well, maybe the Naled were the reason, because they were considered sapient by the Eyrians. A plausible theory, but we don't have any evidence for that, Captain. It's a hypothesis to prove or disapprove. That's what we need to do next. The analysts are pouring through the files uploaded by Kane as we speak. There's quite a wealth of information, so it could take some time. Put as many people on it as you can. Draft them in from other teams if you have to. The more people we have going through them, the quicker we'll get to the truth of it. Though Schafer preferred to have people assigned to the task that was suited for it, time was a pressure here. The colony might have sat abandoned for decades, but who knows what might lurk nearby. The Areans could be in the system right now, and they would never know it. The highest priority for now, Schafer thought, was to avoid any possible confrontation with the Areans. A good military leader knew when the force they had at their disposal was outclassed, and even the smallest Arean ship outclassed the Republic's latest and most advanced flagship. The team on the ground was second priority. It was harsh, but Schafer had to prioritize the safety of the crew on the ship over a small team on the ground. That said, it would be prudent to afford them some cover. Schafer to Sokolov. I want a flight of Revenants prepped and ready to go in case Commander Voigt's team needs support. Acknowledged, Captain. I'm returning to the Liberator to take command of the flight. Brennan, you're Spectre flight commander now. The Spectres were versatile fighters, but they were space superiority fighters, and not well suited to atmospheric conditions as they lacked the required aerodynamics. Revenants had the ability to fly in a wide range of atmospheres, but they were lacking agility in space. Schafer hoped they wouldn't be needed, but he'd rather cover all the bases and ensure they were ready, should the worst happen. This does explain why the Triskele Corporation never pushed further in this direction, Schafer mused. None of us knew it, but they pushed the luck of the Areans, and they reminded them they were not to be trifled with. Probably a good job that the Republic never decided to expand in this direction either, Denom added. Too much to do within our own borders over the last 4 decades. There was a bit of truth to this. Since the emergence of the Republic, they had been beset by pressures from every direction. The largest were their infrastructure changes and the constant skirmishes with the remaining corporations, all of whom were all too keen to gobble up the Republic's territory. Much of their early days were spent fending off incursions from the corporation. They assumed the Republic to be weak and easy pickings, but they had underestimated the fledgling Republic's conviction, and they survived those early offenses. The conflict with them was more subdued now, but it would be a mistake to assume that they still didn't covet their territory. This was more of a Cold War now. Captain, I did an initial search of the files as I uploaded them to the Liberator and flagged a number of them for priority analysis as they contained certain keywords, Kane interrupted. It appears that some of them have been confirmed as relevant to the current situation. What did they say? There are a series of streams conducted by Dr. Clunis regarding Naled physiology. It may be more informative if I just show them. Before you do so, Kane, let me inform the commander. Of course, sir. Schafer to Voight. Yes, sir. Kane has a number of streams that the analysts have indicated as being of interest. We're about to go through them. I suggest you do the same. Will do, sir. No time like the present, Kane.